Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Analogy. My name is Alex, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today, I'm actually by myself for this episode. I kind of wanted to pay tribute to my past videos I used to make on Instagram. If you guys aren't familiar with them, I used to call them my Let's Talk episodes, and we would talk about everything we're basically talking about on this podcast, from emotional vulnerability to sorry, I'm trying to move my bracelets. Okay, they should be fine there. From emotional vulnerability to projection to forgiveness. I think I even made an episode on stillness and the importance behind why you should be still. So I kind of wanted to dive back into my roots on when I first started making videos on concepts such as the one I want to touch upon today. It's crazy to see the fact that the pandemic actually kind of connected me to creating videos, and now I'm kind of still doing it. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's crazy to see the growth in a sense, even though it isn't matched with financial stability yet. But there is definitely some growth, especially on, I guess, on an emotional level. I've changed a lot since then. Yeah, definitely, because last year I actually met someone pretty special. He was very special to me. This is actually kind of nerve-wracking to talk about, just because I've never been very honest on relationships I've had. I've always touched upon them, but I never really talked intimately about them. At least I would say. I'm not sure. I feel I have to go back to the episodes and kind of really dive deep in there, but there's some tea to spill, so let me stop being annoying. Anyways, okay, so yes, on today's episode I wanted to touch upon the importance of emotional needs and what that looks like within our closest, most relationships. I really wanted to touch upon this topic because of certain conversations I was engaging with my family, with my friends, with my cousins especially. Everyone's kind of going through their own rough patches in their relationships, and we kind of tend to place a lot of blame on ourselves. I remember I placed a lot of blame on myself in my past relationship with someone. We tend to feel like we are the issue within relationships instead of really examining why we engage in certain behaviors or why we're engaging in certain arguments or disagreements. So that's why I wanted to touch upon what the different emotional needs are. Okay, I'm still kind of nervous, but we're gonna do this. We're gonna be transparent, authentic, in what had happened. It started in 2020 when I lost my grandma due to COVID. I was kind of looking for an escape to kind of not feel the feelings that come with losing someone important to you. So I kind of gravitated towards finding a partner to kind of make sense of everything that was happening. In order to kind of tackle that, not only did I meet someone, but I also created a small business. If you guys are kind of familiar with that, thanks for supporting it. If you guys aren't, I actually created a small business before the podcast set up, that was called Her Garden, and basically I would sell body oils and homemade deodorant, which I actually made on my own stove. I was going through this whole I need to create phase because I need to kind of figure out what I was missing in a sense. And while this was starting up, while I was selling and while I was creating this brand, I kind of found myself meeting this person or this individual. I was working at the beauty salon one day and I was cleaning the windows and stuff. And this guy comes out of the floral shop, which is where I was working at. And it turns out that, he was cute. He had like this cute look to him, And I was like, hey. And he was like, hey. And then, long story short, we started getting to know each other and really like, hanging out and having fun. And the beginning was amazing. Like, he was so sweet. He was very attentive. He made me feel very comfortable. But then for some reason he kind of got scared to kind of consider it a serious relationship, which is understandable just because like he had a rough past within his past relationship. But once he made that clear to me, I no longer felt secure within what we were kind of starting and what we were kind of building. So once I started to feel insecure and out of place within what we had, I started to pick little fights that in reality weren't so little. They were just coming from a place of fear, of not knowing what was going to happen, of not knowing what we were, about not knowing why I wasn't enough to make a relationship work with someone, at least to an extent of having a title with that person. So I would pick fights, and I would also be very honest though on what it was that I needed. And in a sense, I found out that I needed security and I needed affection. And I also needed validation in order to feel safe with someone, so that my true self can come out. But without those things, I noticed that I wasn't necessarily who I thought I was. I was becoming anxious about everything, and I was becoming depressed to the point where I really didn't want to wake up sometimes, because I would rather sleep away the problems away, because it was easier to deal with things that way. I also wasn't working. Yeah, and this was also around the time where I decided to not go back to school because I wanted to venture out. So the fact that I didn't know how my life was playing out and I didn't know how this relationship was playing out was really taking a toll on me. And it was turning me into this person that I didn't like to be, which was jealous. A very jealous, insecure person. I was lost because I didn't know what I was going to do outside of school. And I just made my life revolved around him, basically. And around wanting to please him and turn myself into this individual that could somehow finally be enough to receive this title. So I tried to hide my emotions and I tried to be less emotional and be more robotic like, because that's what was asked of me. It was always like, why are you being so dramatic? You're being so overwhelming right now. Or I don't understand why you're so sad or so angry. And then I didn't realize what was happening until I got out of the situ-mation-ship, right? Because I really got attached to him and on a sexual level that I didn't realize the red flags that were kind of like happening all along, because the sex was great, that's kind of like a lot of info, but it's true. And I feel like a lot of us go through that where it's like we really connect with someone on a sexual level that we kind of forget the fact that, there's other things, there's other needs that aren't being met outside of the sexual sense of things. But without going on this whole big tangent about like what the frick happened, The first emotional need within a relationship is definitely affection. I feel like affection really differentiates the different kinds of relationships you have within your life. You're definitely not gonna hug everyone in the world. You know what I mean? You're gonna treat your partner different than you treat an acquaintance, different than you treat a friendship. Of course, affection can be shown in numerous ways. You could hold somebody's hand, you could hug someone, shake someone's hand, sexually also. So sexual intimacy as well kind of falls into the affection category. But without affection, I feel like it can kind of be hard to feel connected with someone in a romantic way, even in a platonic way as well. I feel like affection really helps us develop this capacity to love whoever it is. I am very big on affection. It's the Cancer sun. But yes, the Cancer sun, and my Venus is also in Cancer. Venus being the planet of love, and our love languages. So affection was definitely a very important thing for me. In my relationship, I was getting a lot of affection, which is kind of what clouded everything. But definitely that was one of my important needs, which is why I wasn't really realizing the rest. The next emotional need in a relationship is definitely acceptance. You should really learn how to accept people for who they are, and for the person that they're meant to be, instead of trying to change them into who you want them to be. That was something I personally really struggled in my last relationship. I felt like he was always trying to change me. It was either I was being too emotional or too sensitive, or I was too impractical, or I didn't have a very stable way of viewing things. So in a sense, I felt like I was always questioned for who I was at my core, which is definitely not a great feeling to feel, because I even started to question my own sanity and whether maybe I was being too dramatic or maybe I was too overwhelming. But in reality, I wasn't. I was being vocal about how I felt within whatever we had. And that was too overwhelming for him, right? But I was the dramatic one. But I was just vocalizing how I felt. And he just wasn't ready to really accept the fact that maybe what he might be doing is not okay. I felt like I was trying to change myself to become something he wanted me to become, or to become someone that was worthy of his attention or of his love. And while I was like kind of really analyzing why I was attracted to that, I kind of realized that it kind of stemmed from the fact that I tried to please everyone around me, and I tried to change myself to be what everyone wants me to be, instead of truly really being myself. It's easy to kind of accept the good parts of someone, but love is accepting the bad parts of someone as well. That's where true love lies. Another very important need that we all have is definitely validation. I've always spoken about how important validation is. Not even in romantic relationships, but just in relationships in general and connections you might develop with others. Validation is really, 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 and if you didn't know, really important. Especially when someone's being so vulnerable with you, because they're trusting you in that moment. They're trusting that they're gonna give you their heart and you're gonna somehow really protect it with everything that you are. That was another need that was not being met. I did not feel validated for what I was feeling. I did not feel validated for who I was as a person, which kind of like goes along with the acceptance. Every time we would argue and I would feel a certain way, I was labeled as crazy, or I was labeled as insecure. And that was really hard for me because I was insecure. I do admit there's a lot of insecurities that I still need to work on and heal from, and I will do so. at my own respective time, because everybody has their own respective timelines of what they're healing from and what they're going to heal from. So yeah, so I was labeled as crazy, as dramatic again. So that definitely goes with the invalidation of feelings, because all somebody really needs to hear sometimes is, you know what, hey, I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I really didn't mean to. This is what I meant to say, or this is what I meant to do. And can we like kind of fix this before, you know? That's all I wanted, was to feel validated for my points of view, because we would also, at the time, we were trading together. So trading within the stock market. And sometimes there's this thing where you call out plays being like, you call out tickers. Tickers are like the symbol that each stock has. So I'd be like, hey, like there's a double bottom on such and such ticker. There's a candle formation on Apple, or something along those lines. And since we were trading together, I really wanted to kind of provide some information on as to like my points of view when it came to trading, or my points of view in general on certain aspects. But every time I would bring it up, it was like, no, I don't think so. No, you're wrong. No, this, no, that. Which is kind of where I kind of felt the need to be quiet on a lot of the things that I would want to share outside of the stock world. If I wanted to share my opinion on a certain view I had, or if I wanted to share my opinion on something that happened that day, I would kind of shut down because of the fact that I felt like my point of view was never validated, even if it had nothing to do with the stock world. But because that was such a negative experience for me, it kind of spilled over to the other things I wanted to share on too. So that was definitely hard for me to swallow, because I like to input a lot. I like to really help out and be informative as much as I can. I think it's my Gemini. It's like my Jupiter and Gemini. Like, we thrive off of intellectual conversations. And since I couldn't do so, I didn't feel like my need was being met in that sense. So validation is definitely important for me as a need. And I'm pretty sure it's important for most of us out there to feel seen and heard. Another thing that is very important in relationships or relationship needs is autonomy. So within relationships, we kind of gravitate towards people that match our interests, or kind of view some of the same values that we have. You don't have to really be the exact person to make a relationship work, but for the most part, you do have to have some sort of common ground to make sure that you guys kind of build whatever your vision is with whoever you might want to. But it's also important to maintain a sense of individuality, because you don't want to become codependent, where you kind of need this other person to be whole, which is what I was noticing with myself. I was becoming very codependent. If I didn't receive a text, or if I didn't receive a phone call, or if he couldn't hang out that day because he had something going on, I felt so anxious, to the point where I would have like little mini panic attacks. Like, it wasn't even a mini panic attack, it was like on the verge of having one. I would get shortness of breath. I also had this like a feeling of like doom, like a like if something like really bad was gonna happen. And I just couldn't focus. I couldn't focus on anything I was doing. If I was doing schoolwork, because I was still in school when I met him. If I was doing schoolwork, I needed to like drop whatever I was doing, because I couldn't focus, because I needed to see an answer from this person. So I didn't have any autonomy, because I was so dependent on him and his attention and his affection, that I started to lose myself and my sense of individuality, which isn't his fault. That's actually my fault, because I was so focused on making sure that I was going to be enough for him, or that I can maintain this relationship that we kind of had brewing, that I made it my mission to kind of drop whatever I was doing and make sure to focus on him. So I wasn't pouring love into myself, and I wasn't giving myself the attention I needed from myself. That I kind of lost my sense of passion for creating, and I stopped the business. It was hard because I realized how much I was willing to give up of myself to make sure that I kind of had this connection with someone that wasn't even it wasn't even real. Like, it was just sexual and I guess surface level. There were moments where I did feel like I could be vulnerable. There were very few. But yeah, that kind of leads me to security. Security is another need that needs to be met in order to feel safe within a relationship. And security for me is very, very big, because without security, I don't have the space to be myself, which is quirky and loud and fun and I don't know, like, name other characteristics for me, because I really don't know. I like to be adventurous and spontaneous, and I like to kind of challenge myself to do things that, like, I've never done before, which it could be, like, kind of rebellious, and maybe in a sense it isn't the best thing in the world, but I definitely love to kind of just be sporadic and adventurous. But he didn't really welcome that side of me. He was very serious. He just wanted, like, emotional stability, where he didn't want to do things that didn't necessarily feel safe. So that was another thing I kind of had to hide, because I didn't feel so secure within the relationship. He would always mention how, like, he wanted to kind of explore other partners, which is okay. Right? Like, if someone kind of vocalizes that fact to you, you should kind of back off and let them do what they want to do, you know? But then he would also say that he did enjoy having me around, and that he did enjoy whatever it was that we had. That back and forth game kind of dismissed the ability to feel secure within whatever we had. So it kind of, in the long run, hurt more, just because it kind of instilled the fact that I was just never gonna be enough. Like, anything I did was just not worth his attention. But security also goes hand in hand with trust, and it's hard to trust someone if you don't physically feel safe with them, or feel emotionally safe with them, at least. I never felt like I could trust him, just because of the fact that he did want to explore other avenues outside of me, or because he vocalized the fact that he was interested in someone else. You can never feel safe, or at least my Leo moon can never feel safe within an environment like that. And if I don't feel secure and safe, I can't trust. And if I can't trust, then that's when self-doubt starts to creep in, and the insecurities start to creep in, and the fights start arising, and it's a never-ending mess of questioning whether or not maybe he's right. Maybe, like, I am just this broken mess of a person, and I can never find love because I'm so damaged and I'm so destroyed. Or maybe no one deserves me, or I don't deserve anyone because of this fact or because of the next fact. But that isn't true. We're all deserving of love. We're all deserving of attention and validation and security and trust. It's just up to us to really find who that person is and who is able to grant us with such. Because essentially, I feel like that's what a relationship is supposed to be. It's just helping each other kind of emotionally navigate the challenges that come with everyday life, or the challenges that come with being human, you know? Prioritizing your partner is also important within a relationship, because you want to spend as much time as you can with your partner, you know? If your partner doesn't make you feel good, and if you don't want to spend time with them, for the most part, you know, that's a sign that something's not working out. It doesn't mean break up with this person. It doesn't mean let them go. It just means you guys have some work to do on whatever's happening. And it can be because some of your needs aren't being met. And if your needs aren't being met by whoever your lover is, then for the most part, you're probably not going to want to hang out with this person. Within a relationship, without spending time with each other, there is no way to build a connection. There is no way to maintain a connection or a sense of union. And it definitely helps to, like, you know, do new activities together, or ask questions about them or their families or their past. Really getting to know who the person is basically what a connection is all about. Getting to know them and also accepting them, which is what we talked about earlier. You don't want to necessarily ask questions about like their past or their childhood and not make them feel like whatever they went through is validated. But just as connection is important, space is also important. Space to breathe, space to be yourself, space to explore your own interests. That's something I do struggle with, though, allowing my partner to have the space that they require. Because you guys don't necessarily have to do everything together, which is something that I'm learning. I get scared of feeling left behind, which is why I tend to really crave connection, and I crave so much affection. But space is very important, just because you don't want to become codependent like I did within this relationship. You don't want to lose your own interests because you're merging with the other person and their beliefs and interests. Because even though it is nice to share common interests, it's also nice to maintain your own ideas and maintain your own creative projects, or maintain your own practices, whatever that looks like in your life. It gives you more to talk about. It gives you more to touch upon. And if those needs aren't really being met, it's easy to kind of question your place in the world. It's easy to kind of lose yourself within whatever you are engaging in. Not only did I want to make this video to kind of touch upon what I kind of went through within the last year with this person, I kind of noticed that a lot of us, or a lot of the women around me, had kind of gone through something similar, and they kind of blamed themselves for overreacting or reacting a certain way when they shouldn't have, when in reality, it was just evident that their needs weren't being met, just as mine weren't. And even though a relationship can't grant you all the needs that you have, you must find the ones that are the most important to you and really stick to those. For me, the most important needs I have are connection, affection, validation, and acceptance. Without those needs, there is no way that I could feel safe, or there's no way that I can feel secure within whatever I have with whoever it is. And without feeling safe and secure, I can't necessarily be who I'm meant to be, or be my highest self, which is what I'm trying to get towards. So definitely figure out what those needs look like for you. Once you figure that out, whoever can kind of meet those needs is basically the person you're supposed to be with. And, you know, sometimes we need to be vocal about what our needs are so that our partners know, because, you know, communication is definitely key as well. You don't want to just get up and leave something without really communicating what it is that you want, because I definitely communicated what I want. You know, and once you make that evident, and if that person can't meet those needs, or they aren't capable of doing so, then that's when you kind of have to decide whether or not this is something you want to continue, or this is something that needs to be left in the past. So be vocal, be open about what you need. And once you are vocal and open, hopefully your partner kind of reciprocates and is vocal about what they need. It's mutual. Everyone has needs. Everyone needs to feel like their needs are being met. So that turned into a long rambling session. I feel a lot better now that I've talked about everything. And I hope that I can kind of meet your needs in a sense where it's like you guys feel safe enough to share, or I'm at least highlighting some of the issues that we're all going through. And hopefully you don't feel alone, because that's everything to me. If I can make someone feel like they have a friend, or if I can make someone feel like their emotions are accepted and validated, just like I wish mine were. Because I did notice that I tend to fall in love with people's scars and wounds, just because I really want that reciprocated one day. And I know it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen one day. But for right now, I'm working on making sure that I give that love and attention to myself. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope this episode kind of helped you guys navigate your relationships a little better. I know this is definitely a lot of information to take in. But as long as one thing sticks, I think we kind of did okay. Anyways, make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Butterfly Analogy. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts at The Butterfly Analogy. And feel free to follow my personal page at a.xo.x for any updates on any future episodes. But until we meet again, stay beautiful. Bye.